Doing episode 32. We're all here. You guys want to do the Facebook thing first? Obviously, I think Caleb, you have that article up. I can see.
Yeah,
That's fine. So, I think whenever we go over topics, I always write down questions that matter to me and that I'm intrigued in hearing what you guys think. And I think the number one question I have is, and we're talking Facebook, we're talking Zuckerberg was in front of Congress earlier this week. We're talking the Cambridge, I don't want to call it a scandal, but the whole Cambridge Analytical thing and people's accounts getting hacked and their data getting used for this or that. And I remember watching Zuckerberg in front of Congress and all the questions that he was getting asked and the answers he was giving. Mm-hmm. And for me, who's at fault, right? So when I'm listening to these questions, the senators, the representatives, people who are asking them questions were kind of framing it in the sense of like, how can Facebook do better? And I think maybe it rubbed me the wrong way because the way they were asking it just made me really think like, well, how can users also do better? Right? So like, who's at fault? I'm not saying Facebook isn't at fault. I'm just, if could Facebook probably have done a better job with protecting the privacy of their users? Yeah, probably. But, I haven't used Facebook too much lately. I used it years ago. But years ago, even, you could go into settings and set things so that they were private and set things, I don't know, there's privacy settings that I feel like a lot of people could overlook, right? So once again, who's more at fault? Is it the users or is it Facebook? Facebook is just sitting there giving you a service to connect with people and to socialize on a different medium than had been before, and one that's more efficient and more readily accessible. It's just like I just felt like Facebook was getting raked across the coals. And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, there was at one point in the testimony, or when he was testifying in front of Congress, mm-hmm. He said, I forget the question that was asked, but he said, Senator, the first line of our user agreement says, essentially, we're not going to ask you for any, it's up to you, the information that you put up on Facebook, and you know that you're making it public. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in that sense, that's kind of, it's kind of up to the user. Like, it's kind of on you, the amount of information you put on there.
But it definitely gets tough because Facebook, it gets tough because Facebook now has access to a bunch of data that can get hacked, maybe even, or, that can get potentially abused in that way. But most things can get hacked these days if you're not careful, right? So, I don't know. I guess
I think the biggest issue leads right into this article that we have up here is them using artificial intelligence to predict and try and influence future behavior.
Right.
That's
where it gets tough.
That's
this
weird.
Is what I want to jump in real quick as well.
Very weird.
If you're looking at it in that way, right? To identify consumers of a given product and to influence said behavior in order for them to purchase or, purchase a good and service over another company's. We're still not even out of the woods yet of campaign finance reform. And right now, super PACs can buy ads, which means you can buy ads on Facebook, which means you can use Facebook's algorithms to identify potential voters or potential people that are on the fence and spam blast them with ads.
Right.
That's a big deal to me, right? Because again, we still haven't addressed campaign finance reform at all. Not even close.
Right.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The potential, especially for political abuse, there is that's something we should all be concerned about.
Well, and that's why this came to a head because of Cambridge Analytica.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
The claim was they were using Facebook data in order to influence the election to assist Trump in getting elected.
Well, interestingly enough, when I was just doing a little bit of snooping around, apparently Facebook got caught advertising that it could help
and
quote
then
unquote influence elections. Right. They got caught and then they kind of just try to make it go away.
So let's make sure we're very clear on that. There's a section in there for advertisers and they had a bunch of case studies and they're when you go to the drop down, there's different industries in which, they had like case studies for. One of those drop down options was government.
Okay.
So I can pull that one up as well if you'd like.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but that's interesting.
And
We're talking
the other
about
thing that I have to complain about specifically is what kind of bullshit the senators that were questioning Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh gosh,
these people have no idea what technology is, the internet, or how it works.
Listening to specifically I didn't really hear much of the Wednesday one, but listening specifically to what I heard on the Tuesday questioning from senators just made me think that like we could really use some younger people in positions of power. I don't know, man. Jeez.
Well, that and the fact that as much as we're looking at Facebook and we're really concerned about all this data and how we're being tracked and how this data is being used, there's large parts of our government that its only job is to track the population through data collection, through metadata.
Right.
Like it kind of smacks of irony when you have senators grilling Mark Zuckerberg when we have the NSA and we have the CIA. You know what I mean?
It does, but this goes back to an argument I've made plenty of times on the pod. Government has to respond to the people, so they have to be more careful because of that. Facebook doesn't have to respond to anybody, so
that's true.
So,
and
I'm not saying, do not get me wrong, I'm not saying government does the right thing all the time. Dear Jesus, no. But they definitely still have this responsibility of, hey, we need to do right by these people who vote us in, because if we don't, then there I go. Not going to be here anymore.
Something else that bothered me about those senators, though, if I can,
sure.
are these were the same senators that when Equifax admitted just absolutely losing so much personal sensitive data, these were the same senators that just made that problem go away for them. Made any sort of potential lawsuit or...
Well, you don't know that. You don't know if they just made the problem go away. Maybe they just...
I'm fairly certain that was... They had a hearing on Equifax and Congress moved to protect Equifax from litigation. I'm fairly certain.
I really hope that's not correct. I could be completely wrong there. No, I'm not saying you are. I just really hope you. Oh God, I really hope that's not true. And if that is true, then why the heck did they do that?
That's what I'm saying. Like clearly, this Congress doesn't give a shit about our privacy.
Going back to this discussion, what is it about Facebook that makes them rake them over the coals and do all this stuff? And
it just seems like a pony show, dude.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna get done here.
That's usually how that works, but
well, I think, and considering this is such a new industry, as much as I hate to call it that in this day and age, but there are industries out there who just collect data and sell that data on users.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like these companies should be beholden to transparency. What are you doing with that data? What is it? Where is it being sold? Why is it being sold to that company? What are they doing with that information?
It's just
it's active manipulation. That's what it feels like.
When it comes to these senators, though, the frustration is that they quite clearly have no idea what potential reach there is, and well, I should say some of them, right?
Right.
Like I'm looking at incorporated.com, which is a website that's got a couple different articles, and people are just ripping these senators, like tweeting pictures of Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa, saying stuff like, Grassley, sorry. Mr. Zuckerberg, hypothetically, if someone's VCR won't stop flashing at 12, how would you suggest they fix that? Or this is the other one. Mr. Zuckerberg, a magazine I recently opened came with a floppy disk offering me 30 free hours of something called America Online. Is that the same as Facebook? Like, obviously it's all in good fun with a lot of these, but the point here is like...
Memes.
What? Like, here we go. One of the ones.
No,
Lindsey Graham. Is Twitter the same as what you do?
Did he actually ask that?
Yes.
To be fair, that's something to consider, though, because Twitter does a lot of these same things. Twitter sells data. Twitter collects data.
Going back to the article, which is why I'm really glad Caleb shared it. Nobody cares if you are a social media company that innocently lets people have a platform to connect, right? Without not even manipulating the data or getting hacked. Just nobody cares if you innovate socializing to the point where it's more efficient and you can have more people connect. The problem is when, and I hate, this article says Facebook does do it, and I hate to say it, I bet you they all do it. The problem is when they run these AI bots to like predict and you know, I don't know.
Here
Like
it is, right here, Cyril. If
massage.
you look at
Yeah.
your screen right here, Facebook explains it can comb through its 2 billion users and produce millions at risk of jumping ship from one brand to a competitor.
Right.
When you're proactively doing that, and then you're potentially or could potentially sell services to government.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing too is that we're getting to the point in our understanding of psychology to where the consumer is almost defenseless, right? If you're able to use psychology by consistently hammering away a given product, and that person naturally, when they go to the store, they're like, oh, I don't know why, but I feel like I need to buy this product. How is that fair to the consumer? If
Yeah.
you're actively using psychological techniques, and that's what it seems like to me, at least, is you're using this form of constant, what's that? The Pavlov's theory,
Yeah.
right? If you're constantly bombarding somebody with an ad, or with
Pavlov's dog, right? Is that what you're saying? The bell
Yep.
Yeah.
The bell ring, right? Every time the bell rings, all of a sudden he gets hungry.
Right.
Kind of like the same thing. If you're using psychology, right, or the study of that in such a way to influence people that way, I'm not sure how I feel about that just yet.
Yeah. Also, what got brought up too is, you know, what responsibility does any social media platform have for sharing things that are fake or things that are hateful, right? When we do live in a society that has free speech, should you do anything about that? Like, I don't even know. I can't even answer that question. That's a tough question to answer.
Let me step that up just a little bit farther, right?
Yeah.
The problem here is Facebook responsible for the content on its site? Because one might argue, for example, if I use my Verizon cell phone to call Chad and let him know that, you know, I don't know, talk about racist things, for example, is Verizon responsible for that?
I would say no.
So why would Facebook be responsible for the same thing?
Yeah, I think that's right.
I'm just posing a question.
No. I think that's right in that sense, but I don't know that applies to every aspect of what I was saying.
Okay.
So I think you're right. I think people can make their own pages. Facebook just supports the platform and runs the servers for you to have a space to create your page, and you can post what you want.
But that's not what is happening.
But I think and I think that's not a big deal. That's innocent enough. But I also know that that's not just what Facebook is. That's actually, I think these days that's a small portion of what Facebook is. Facebook pushes, like I said, I don't use Facebook too much, but a couple years ago I knew that they would like post the top trending news articles on the side, and that's what they did, and like it was there, right? And they could potentially pick the shit that they want to put on there, not necessarily, you know, like that's what I mean. When you wield such power over the connecting of people, I think you just inevitably, and I hate to say this because I don't like to think that things inevitably go bad or human beings are bad, but I think that inevitably you're just going to end up abusing that for whatever reason. It could be a ton of reasons. It could just be for, innocently enough, just trying to collect some data to give to a company on what the general reaction to their new product might be. But it could be a lot worse than that too. And it could be the Cambridge Analytica thing where you literally are giving them data on all your on all of your American profiles, and they're using that to, you know, sway or influence people's thinking. But I mean, this also goes back to dear God, people, can't you just like sift through the BS and the non-BS? I don't understand. Like,
well, no, again, not a lot of people
it gets
spend
tough.
the time to read and comb through. I mean, even now, I try to make a conscious effort to do that, and it can be hard. I can't imagine what somebody who doesn't put time and effort into it has to deal with.
The problem is when people just consume things at face value and then don't choose to read and comb through, and then
So why would they do that though?
Because it's an easy way to consume. That's what Facebook is, though.
For me,
you know what I mean?
for me, some people would do that just because once they see something that fits their narrative and viewpoint, they say, "Oh, got him," and then they don't even care about if it's true or not.
Exactly.
And I think that Facebook and social media giants can play off that in a negative way, in a very bad way.
And but how does that benefit
them?
What's that?
How does that benefit them? Why would they do that?
Because
we've established that they can, but why would they?
Because
you can influence
like
election.
The Cambridge Analytica thing.
But how does that benefit?
Donald Trump campaign hires Cambridge Analytica to help them mold minds.
That's a third-party thing, right? They can just stop having third-party users. Right. What I'm saying is ultimately, what's the benefit to a Facebook, for example?
They get a bunch of money from Cambridge Analytica in the Donald Trump campaign, or not just. I don't want to throw him under the bus too. I think Obama used Facebook very well back in the day. Any campaign can give them money. They profit. We live in a world
but what I'm saying is, if we got rid of that, then what?
If we got rid of what? Profit?
No, got rid of the ability for politics to be involved in data collection. To where it comes to an election, for example. I mean, that's pretty specific. But again, let's say you get rid of that. Is there any benefit to Facebook doing that?
Is there any benefit?
I mean, anywhere Facebook can profit off the data that they now have because people willingly joined. Why wouldn't they? It doesn't have.
So what I'm saying is if the regulation says that you are not allowed to use analytics like that to influence or
yeah, I see where you're going, but what if that made Facebook unprofitable and they can't even exist anymore because a lot of their profits come from that? Well, then what are we supposed to do? You can't you're picking winners and losers. You're going to tell Facebook they have to lose now?
No, not Facebook. Any social media platform. You cannot use this data to attempt to influence people with their vote, for example. I don't know how you specifically enforce that, but
fair.
There's still potential for abuse, though.
Regulation.
Go ahead, Chad. What abuse?
Outside of politics, what is the abuse? Where? What are we talking?
That article that you posted was talking about how their AI software is it's designed to try and predict people's behavior and put ads in front of them that will confirm certain things for them. It's trying to influence behavior.
Here's the box thing for you, Chad. How AI is being used for advertising. Sure. Facebook takes personal information about user. Facebook feeds this data into FB Learner Flow. It's named for an internal machine learning tool. FB Learner Flow runs a branching decision tree simulation that can be used to predict outcomes such as consumer behaviors. Facebook takes the results from FB Learner Flow and packages them into a group of people expected to behave similarly. Facebook provides corporations with the ability to target these individuals with advertisement on the basis of either preventing or reinforcing this predicted outcome.
Mm-hmm.
But in this article, to Chad's point, as they continue on, right, when you package this and give this to a company, you now have a vested interest in making sure that company gets what they wanted because they're paying you, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's where Chad was going, if I'm not mistaken. Chad, jump in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's Pascale, the law professor, told The Intercept that Facebook's behavior prediction work is eerie and worried how the company could turn algorithmic predictions into self-fulfilling prophecies. Since once they've made this prediction, they have a financial interest in making it true. So they're going to try and they'll sell to an advertiser based on the predictions they have from people's behavior on there. And then they'll try and prove that they're boosting sales or even maybe inappropriately push that product or service onto their users just to make sure that the results are there, but in a way that is deceiving.
If we go back to this, right, how AI is being used for advertising, if I'm Facebook and I sell Cyril 50,000 users that I'm pretty much guaranteeing will buy his product, because I've gone through this decision-making branch tree, and you and I sign a contract that states that this will help, let's say for some reason I guarantee it to increase your sales by 10%. If I know your sales are at 8, and I'm about to lose your contract, how then could I use this to make sure I get to that 10% so I can keep your contract?
Right.
Are you going to start doing things like peddling these advertisements in front of maybe other people that I didn't necessarily mean to, but now I'm trying to influence their behavior in order to buy a product to keep a contract?
It's just this idea of trying to influence behavior that really bothers me. And the fact that people are seeing this and not quickly jumping ship from Facebook blows my mind. Because this is it's not even a breach of privacy. Like they're going further than that. They're trying to influence your behavior in a way that's beneficial for a company that's paying money for them to do that.
We've talked a lot about.
Are they trying to influence, or are they just trying to predict?
No, what they can do is predict decisions that you would make or things that you would be interested in, and then you can try and influence them into making that leap or like purchasing that thing or not breaking away from a certain product or keeping their loyalty. It's about influencing. It's predicting and then influencing. That's what they're selling. That's crazy.
And I think we've talked a lot about being in an echo chamber these days, and what that amounts to and what kind of negative things come from that. This feels like it reinforces those echo chambers. It doesn't feel like it's I don't know. It just it feels like echo chambers are being reinforced. It doesn't feel like people are consuming things on an equal basis from all sides and making a common sense decision on this or that, right? It feels like you're being fed via ads things that Facebook thinks that you should be fed because you're responsive to it.
Right. Well, they're also feeding you media that you'll be responsive to.
Right.
So people like carve out these, well, not even just based on the likes that they place and the places where they dwell on that it captures their attention. Facebook's algorithm is immediately trying to connect you to other things that you're going to like, you're going to read, you're going to dwell on. Yeah. So it turns out to like be clickbaity stuff, and then an election runs around and it turns out to be a bunch of political clickbaity stuff. Then all of a sudden people are just losing their goddamn minds.
But you just mentioned, I mean, Caleb said earlier, what besides politics? You just mentioned something besides politics that frightens me. It's media. Media. Yeah. What if you're peddling things that are fear mongering or
well, it definitely relates into politics, but absolutely it could relate to, I mean, like the idea that in this day and age we're seeing a resurgence of people who believe in flat Earth. It makes you wonder, like, what's going on here?
Resurgence, or it is mass communication being able to connect those crazies more?
No, I think we're seeing a resurgence. I think people are given a community and a platform they can exist within now without constantly having people being critical against them. And then they live in that community online, and then they're not challenged.
Who was it? There's a comedian that talked about this. If I remember the name, I'll have to throw it in there. But it was something to the effect of like, back in the day, if you ran into some weird guy that liked to fuck a toaster, he was the weird guy. Normally, he would be ostracized from society, and then realize that this isn't normal. I shouldn't be doing this. Whereas nowadays, you can find a forum with 1,000 other people that like to fuck toasters, and then you think it's perfectly acceptable to fuck toasters. That's kind of like what I feel like we're talking about. And again, if I remember the comic's name, I'll throw that in there. But it's pretty funny. But that's exactly kind of like what we're talking about here.
I don't worry about people who, let's say, fuck toasters, or I don't worry about people that are doing things that aren't harming other people or doing damage to other human beings. I worry about the fear mongering that does damage to an entire group of people, right? And what I mean by that is, we hear a lot of hate for Muslims these days, and there's reasons for it. I get that. But there's also plenty of Muslims who are good people who just wake up, tie their shoes, and go to work and try their best. And there's a lot of just painting groups of people in negative light or illegals, right? Like, sure, obviously at face value, if they're illegal, then there's something to be said there. But the idea that all illegals are bad people, or most illegals are bad people, is just blatantly untrue and false. And that's what frightens me. If people want to get together and fuck toasters, I don't care. If people want to get together and espouse hatred and paint other human beings in a bad light, in a black and white, bad light, as if they all are bad, that's what scares me. That's
I don't know.
not helpful.
Would you rather have that out in the open so that we can confront it and say, wait a minute, this is ridiculous, as opposed to having a bunch of closet racists everywhere? Like, what would you rather have?
I would absolutely agree with that. There's a lot of talk about censoring on Twitter and Facebook, like sort of monitoring and censoring parts of the community. And it's well, do you want to drive these people underground, or do you want these people to be out in the open as they are? At least that way you can try and have some discussion with these people.
Yeah, I'd want them out in the open.
That would be the argument, I think, against what you're saying. That's right.
That's what I'm saying. I don't even think that's an argument against. I do know that, yes, we can drive these people in the open and expose them for what they are. But we have a president that fearmongers more than anything I've ever seen as far as presidents go. And he got elected on it almost. Not he solely got elected on that. But that was a big part of his platform, right? Like, we're going to ban all Muslims traveling to this country, period, end of story. Like, really? Like, that's bad. And he won. So you can make that argument and say we can drive him in the open and try to, like, say, like, this is bad, let's not do that. But, like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like, especially right now, it's working all that well. I feel like it cuts both ways. Yes, there are those of us that can say, hey, that's not right. Some people are bad people. Most people are good people. But I also feel like there's a lot of people that hang on every word of Donald Trump or even someone else that's a leader of something and say, and it codifies their beliefs, or they'll be like, oh, well, what he says is right. That cuts both ways. So it's tough. I don't know. We can't sit here
because I feel like that's slightly different because Donald Trump is a leader. He has a responsibility to lead. His behavior online should be held to a standard. Whereas some Joe Schmo who's
that's fair,
a closet racist, but not anymore because now he can say it on Twitter.
I don't know.
Guy is
but he won, Chad. He won on a lot of hateful speech, more hateful speech than any president in recent memory. And so
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying Trump has a responsibility to that. But, that doesn't mean we should censor.
That's a whole other conversation, though. What I was saying is that worries me. Like, you're saying that we can drive these people in the open and they'll just get pointed at and say, don't do that. That's not right. But that's not really what happened there. He won.
But now I think it is what happened because
3 million people voted for him. Don't get me wrong. I don't think a majority of those people are hateful people or voted for him because of the hatefulness.
Yeah,
but I guarantee you, some of those people. But I do guarantee you that some of those people actually did like what he said, and maybe they weren't as much before. Then all of a sudden after, right? And that's scary too.
But now we know who those people are, because they're liking those Trump memes on Facebook about those goddamn Muslims. Well, I shouldn't make that accent. There's plenty of people that.
Well, and then I watched a Vice clip there a little while ago, and it was about the Black Bloc. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Black Bloc. They're a far left, kind of like anarchist, anarchist group that actively goes after people like what we're describing. And I think this is an extreme form, right? And potentially dangerous. Yeah, Antifa, whatever, groups like that. The other thing that they do as well is they'll find or look for people on Reddit or on Facebook or any sort of social media platform, and they will, if they figure out who you are, they will send that information to your employer.
Yeah. Wait, so what are they looking for specifically? If you remember,
to get these people getting fired.
No. What are they
lose their jobs?
What are they looking for that people are saying? Like, what are they like? What are people saying that makes them want to call them out? Like, what are they looking for?
It's got to be particularly inflammatory stuff they're saying.
Right.
Well, and that's the fear. Like, what if you're just a Republican? And again, this is tinfoil hat time, but.
Oh, you're okay.
They're obviously targeting people who specifically support Donald Trump in his more,
So my question
what they might
is
consider misogynistic or racist policies.
My question to you would be: are they specifically looking for people? Are they being such asshats that they're literally trying to call people out for just being a Trump supporter, or are they looking for hateful speech?
I have to dig in farther, and to be honest with you, my fear and my assumption is it's just Trump supporters.
That would be straight up dumb. That would be so dumb.
Again, that's the far extreme other side of
literally half the country voted for him. So you're gonna
well,
right,
half the country, half the voters, but
But what they're going to do, though, is
You're
try and
wrong.
find things. What they're going to try and do is find things these people are saying online that are inflammatory enough to
That's what I
to
would
be
Get them
fired.
fired. Right.
Because, like,
yeah.
here's the thing: you're allowed to have any opinion you want and espouse
Yeah,
it,
of course.
but there might be certain repercussions for that.
Sure.
That's just factual. Like socially
Yeah.
or professionally or otherwise, there could be repercussions for things you say. You can believe and say whatever you want. Just know that you could
Right.
lose your job, or you
Dude,
could
some-
lose
some
some
people-
friends, or you could.
Some people went after these Parkland survivors hardcore and lost their jobs because they said some pretty stupid stuff.
Sure.
So, and
Sure.
the same, it goes both ways. Some people have.
Well,
you know,
and I
said
think the other
some
thing
some dumb stuff about the Ben Shapiros and Jordan Petersons of the world, who I have a lot of respect for both of them, and then they lose their job or they get raked over the coals, as they should, because they're stupid, you know. So
I don't know. I would encourage you guys to take a look at the Vice. I think it's called Hysteria series. They have a piece on a guy that is like what does he consider himself, an alt-right gladiator?
oh geez.
It's as wild as that sounds, it's quite interesting to hear him like be
Dude, people fascinate me. I don't care what you believe. I just want to know why. Yeah.
It's
That's not true.
wild.
As long as you're not violent against other people, I don't care what you believe, and I'm fascinated by why you believe it. But if you're violent against other people, then yeah, that's not good. But no, you can. And this is kind of what I've been trying to do. I went out and I talked to some people at a March for Science yesterday downtown here in Buffalo, and this is kind of what I basically do when I go out and talk to people, whether it be people who are really rural and they have repeal the Safe Act signs on their lawn out here where I'm running, or when I go downtown and I go to a March for Science, which, let's not kid ourselves, it's mostly people who lean left. I don't try to debate them. I just ask. I am fascinated as to why people are the way they are, think the way they do, and why they do. That's it. I don't care. I don't care to tell you you're wrong or to debate you. I just am really, and it's been a wild ride for sure. I've probably talked to a few hundred people by now, and it's pretty interesting, man. Just why they believe what they do and how they got there, and I asked them questions about like where they grew up, who influenced them in life. It's fascinating. So now once again, as long as you're not violent against other people. If you're violent against other people, I'm calling the cops. But as long as you're not doing that, then it's all good in the hood. So it's gonna be interesting as we move forward to. Oh, you posted them, nice. It's going to oh God, that first one's gonna just make me upset.
So I just sent both of my brothers the it's called Hysteria by Vice. It's on YouTube. And the first one is called The Rise of the Crisis Actor Conspiracy Movement. That one kind of, it hurts your soul, but one thing that they point out in the whole thing is that it allows, what they're saying, it allows crazy people or potentially people that are mentally unstable to go after those who have been affected by mass shootings.
Oh my God, yeah. I remember hearing reports of after Sandy Hook, weeks after Sandy Hook, people calling up the parents of these kids.
Yep.
Oh God.
And just like leaving voicemails. I know, it's like, what
are you doing?
Stop. Just stop.
So this
So
one,
in this goes
one
back
they
to
follow the Texas shooting. There's a shooting at a church. And these two people, Sidethorn, I believe is his YouTube moniker, and Conspiracy Granny, were harassing the pastor of this church for months and months and months about how they're lying. You can't even prove those people are even alive to begin with, so this whole thing was fake. And you see the pastor confront the guy like, you're trying to tell me my daughter was never alive and that I'm lying. Do you not hear yourself?
Oh my
and the
God,
guys,
man.
it is insane. So if you get a
gonna
chance,
make me
I would
upset.
encourage people to watch
And
that.
so this is what I'm talking about, right? These people are fired up, right? And I'm going to bring this back to Facebook really quick. These people are fired up, right? They're agitated. They think that this whole thing is fake, that people are paid, they made it up. These people are very active. So they've already made their opinions, they've made their bed, and they laid in it, okay? But when we talk about Facebook and the dangers of Facebook and social media, a lot of people might be inclined to think the way they do, but they don't give enough of a crap. They're just waking up, going to work, trying their best, right? When they go online and this crap gets shared by the people who are extremists, whether it be on the right or the left, there's extremists on both. We all agree on that. When it gets shared, these normal-minded people who might have otherwise not been sucked into it, they read it and they go, oh, look at this. This is crazy. And this is what I think a lot happened with the 2016 campaign. People share things, and then people who otherwise wouldn't have been inclined to think of these crazy things and these things that people are saying, all of a sudden they read. It's so easy and readily available to read something that now that fires them up to think a certain way, right? That's dangerous, where they otherwise would have just not. That's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what worries me. The crazies of the world pulling. I'm not worried about everybody going crazy. That's not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is the crazies pulling a few more people in, getting a few more numbers. Because any person that they pull to their crazy side is just another person lost. Oh man, it's sad, you know. And I feel like the ease of access of sharing things and reading things and going on Facebook, it's made some people who otherwise wouldn't have been crazy a little more crazy. So I could be wrong, but that's just how I feel. It's tough.
Ultimately, what we've come to the conclusion of, specifically when it comes to Facebook, is that we need to work on campaign finance reform.
I think so, man. Hey, let me tell you, I'm glad you brought that up, because let me tell you one thing. I would say 95% of the people that I've talked to, it doesn't matter where on the spectrum they are. All I got to do to have a fantastic conversation and have their support and have them shake my hand is say, we need to get special interests out of government. We need to have government represent us and the way we think and the way that we determine we should be moving forward. Not special interests or money and I'm not saying that rich people can't be a part of the process. They can, but their vote should be the same as mine, yours, and Chad's. It shouldn't be that they can spend all this money to wield more influence. No, that's the beauty of democracy. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, or anywhere in between. You get one vote. We should all be having the same power and influence in the decisions that our government makes, and that's not the case. When I start my soapbox on this, people get fired up. It doesn't matter who I talk to, whether they have a repeal the SAFE Act sign or that I'm downtown talking to millennials who are marching. They all feel the same way. And that's true, I think.
What I would say, though, is the bigger thing to take away from this is that people need to jump ship at Facebook, right?
Yeah, sure.
There needs to be a startup social network that doesn't rely on having to sell ads, that is maybe crowdsourced just to pay the staff and run some servers, you know what I mean? So people can just have the social network they want and not have to worry about being tracked. I mean, how hard is that?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Will that happen?
I think it is hard.
An open source type
so many
of
people
social...
I was listening to the radio the other day, I believe it was on NPR, and they were interviewing somebody that was like, yeah, I want to get off the Facebook platform, but the problem is that none of my friends or family are going to move. So it kind of defeats the purpose of moving to begin with, because now I can't keep in touch with anybody that I would normally keep in touch with.
Dude, then go outside and meet new people. Human beings are generally good people.
Listen, I get that, but people are also very much committed to those that they are,
Well, again, it's going to come down
about that.
It's going to come down to the people who are part of the Facebook community. I mean, none of us use Facebook, I don't think. It's not our responsibility. It's up to the people who
I still have mine, but I don't go on it nothing but just to upload videos to the Three Bros podcast page. So
no, that's fair.
You might want to pay Facebook for some more
shut it down. Shut it down, Cyril.
Shut down the Three Bros podcast Facebook page. I mean, we could.
No, that's all right. Well, shall we? Are we going to move on to the next?
Yeah, let's move on to.
Sure.
So, Caleb, if you want to pull that article up, it's somewhere in the Hangout.
I'll find it.
So this one should get good.
This will be interesting.
Yeah, because I don't even know how I feel about it just yet. I'm I'm trying to think of because I always like to ask a question or state what I think of it. But I really don't. Does anybody have any strong feels one way or another about it?
To be honest, I spent so much time and effort reading about this Facebook dilemma.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
But I mean, I can certainly give you feedback. Is this it? This Money Watch one from CBS?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the
Yep.
one.
Okay, Washington. The Trump administration is considering
I'll
a
bring
plan
up the
that
first
would
thing that I
last
think of.
Okay.
Drug testing costs money. Okay.
Okay,
Drug
we can't do that.
What?
There's there's noise on that article. There's like
Oh,
an
yeah,
ad
there
that
is.
plays.
Oh yeah, you
Guys,
had to,
I'm not
you had to
putting it on.
mute it.
CBS, I hate you.
Yeah, you had to mute it.
Just mute it. No? All right, well, what? No big deal. So it costs money. Not only does it cost money, it costs time and effort. Someone's got to administer the testing. You have to get that person to take time out of their day. I don't really know how often they'd want to do this. But that's what it is for me. Like, I don't want to live in a world where we offer help, but there's a whole bunch of stipulations. We either offer help or we don't. It's got to be one or the other. And I don't know.
What?
Like, this
There has to be some stipulations, surely.
I mean, there already are. There definitely are. You have to be
Right, you have to be looking for a
in
job.
poverty. Yeah.
Or
Or
under
in
the
poverty.
poverty line.
Of course, there's stipulations. Well, yeah. So I guess my next question would be, how do they? Where do you submit that paperwork? How do they figure that you do qualify? And maybe how could they add on a part of the applying application process that is a drug test, which that doesn't sound too terrible. But I just in this in the Facebook conversation, right? Caleb said, "Oh, it comes back to campaign finance." So for this conversation, it just comes back to we don't have drug laws that are what I don't want to say what they should be, but we don't have drug laws that reflect the danger of different drugs, and we don't have drug laws that really reflect what I think would be the best way to approach. Yeah, doing stuff like that. So what? So if someone smokes pot, but they live in poverty, and who even knows if this is the case? Because this sounds ridiculous, but if you're living in poverty and you're somehow getting your hands on drugs somehow, which I'm sure can happen and does happen from time to time. If you're smoking a little bit of pot here and there, but you're still functioning and you're still trying your best, that's going to disqualify you from getting assistance. Like, that seems.
The one thing that I came across that I thought was a good point was, let's say you do drug test, and let's say that somebody tests positive, so you take away the benefits for them. But suppose that this person has a family or children as well.
Right.
So it's like, surely you want to punish the parent, maybe, but then are you also by extension punishing the children?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. That was one thing that I came across. I didn't even consider. I had not even considered that.
Yeah, definitely. Because the child doesn't get food stamps handed to them. It's the parent that goes out and. You know,
for me, what is the concern here? Are people under the impression that they're abusing the food stamp system and getting money somehow and using that money to buy drugs?
Correct.
That's okay.
Because as far as well, I could.
And when we change, I mean, it's a pretty simple way to get rid of that concern, right? You change it to a system in which there's like a debit card, and only the person that is tied to that debit card can use that.
Yeah, but we did that though. We have
the
EBT system.
Right.
New York State definitely has that system for sure.
Right. And then when you move on from that, right? The claim now is well, they're gonna buy whatever they gotta buy, and then they're gonna give it to the drug dealer. Which now we're getting to a point. I feel that
food. Yeah. No, what I actually saw was the biggest source of fraud ever since the EBT thing, because the EBT, when they changed to the EBT cards, that actually reduced a lot on the fraud that used to take place. That used to be a lot more rampant in the food stamp system because they got rid of physical stamps. Like you had to purchase these stamps, which would then go on to have more buying power for certain types of food. But I guess what they can do is you can go in if you know a certain clerk at a certain store, and they will run a transaction for you. You'll not actually have purchased anything, and then they'll hand you, let's say, 50% out of the drawer, right? So I guess that's one of the ways you can. But again, the government does extensive studies on this, and as far as they can tell, that's like it's like 1%. 1% of it is fraud, maybe, or less than 1%. Like you have very low amounts of fraud in the system. As far as they can tell through the government studies done, whoever is receiving these EBT cards, for the most part, they are actually families in need or people in need, just buying food with it. So I don't know. Are drug tests necessary? I mean, I feel like they're so expensive, and it's almost not even worth it. But the other thing I didn't realize was that there in 2016 there were 44.2 million people that received SNAP or were qualified under the SNAP program. That's a lot of money, dude. That's $71 billion. I didn't realize how huge. I didn't realize how many people were on.
You're right, Chad. I'm looking up on, and this is actually a Forbes artitle.
So
On a Forbes article, it says 99% of the benefit. Yeah, sorry, hang on. 99% of the benefit. Share my screen.
Yeah.
How doth I do that? There we go.
How does one do that?
Over to the left-hand side, you should see a screen share.
Yeah.
It's a green.
Yeah. Can you guys see it at all?
Yep.
So right there, or put another way, 99% of benefit dollars were in no way associated with fraud. So,
and something else I came across, or at least something I saw, was that these drug tests are so expensive, and for the most part, they catch from the tests that they were from different states giving in data, they would catch maybe 8%. 8% of people would test positive for some kind of drug, but at a cost of, millions of dollars to test maybe a few thousand people. We're talking 44 million people. You're not going to drug test 44 million people.
Yeah. And also,
how the hell are you going to do that?
I don't, this is purely speculation. This is not anything that has numbers behind it, but like poor people and drugs, like, can they afford drugs? Like, I don't understand. And
that's
also,
why they're poor, dude.
Oh my gosh! Look, and
I think that's the idea, though.
Well, look, I think I don't live in a fantasy world. I know that there's probably some people who live in poverty who might be there because of drug use and abuse, and that put them on their downward spiral, and now here they are. But I don't. If it's an adult and they don't have any dependence, Chad, you brought up the great point. It's all about dependence. If it's an adult that has no dependence and they went down on a downward spiral because of drug use, and now they're trying to receive assistance because they're poor and down and out in their luck. If it's just you and you're an adult and we gave you a public education system, we gave you opportunities in this country, like, cry me a river. I don't know what to say. The difference is if it's someone who has children, and they have gone down the same path of they're using and abusing drugs. They're starting to, their life is starting to fall apart, but they have dependents. That person probably shouldn't have control of those dependents. Like, you probably shouldn't be raising your kids if you're so bad with drugs that you can't function and you're living in poverty because you can't function because of drug use. Then why do you have kids? No, the state's going to take them away. You're not responsible enough. Like, I don't, it comes back to kids. I don't care if it's a single adult who's ruined their life and they came in and they were all high on drugs trying to get assistance. I would be like, get lost, bro. Get lost. Go find go try to find a job or ask family or do something. I don't know. But if someone was coming in and if the same person came in and their life is spiraling out of control, they're starting to and they have dependents, sure, I'd want to err on the side of, oh, let's give them this aid because the aid also helps the kids. But Jesus Christ, they probably shouldn't have those kids. The state's going to take them away. The state should take them away. So what I'm trying to say is I don't know. I want to see how many people actually test positive for drugs and have dependents and are raising them as best they can. I don't think that number is high, if at all much people.
The only number I found was that 8%. 8% would test positive for drugs. But that could be anything. You know what I mean? That could be weed. That could be heroin. You know what I mean? That could be anything.
And how many of those 8% have kids? Maybe because they're using drugs and they're doing all these things. Maybe they don't. We all know, and I don't want to say we all know. Caleb knows better than us. But even a guy observing knows that when you have kids, things change, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Even some of the worst of us, when they have a kid, that will make you really seriously burden some responsibility, and can not turn things around for the better, but really make you think about things and think about the choices you're making. And if having a kid or having people depend on you still doesn't make you turn around, then you shouldn't raise those kids. Period.
Yeah, raising kids is stressful, dude. Sometimes a little bump of meth can help.
Nope.
I mean, let me ask you something different then. Right?
Sure.
A little bump of meth, as opposed to what? A Xanax?
Yeah, good stuff.
What's the difference?
Hey, that's prescribed, man. A doctor said that was okay.
Yeah.
Right. Because we don't have an oxy problem in this country. We don't have methadone.
Yeah. I think with both of these conversations, it feels like we all feel like we are trying to legislate things in a way where society is already how it should be, but it's not as far as drugs go. It's not as far as data goes and that kind of stuff. And as far as big interests and special interests in government. If we could get our shit together in other areas, maybe we could implement these things and they would work. But our shit's not together in all the areas that they need to be. It's just not. So,
Interestingly enough, though, so that article you posted, they had mentioned that the drug testings that they had proposed would affect about 5% of people who are currently receiving SNAP benefits. So it's obviously not everyone, but
that's not even. What do you mean? It's not only not everyone. It's barely it's not even a minority. It's 5% of people.
So though, 5% of 44 million, right? That's a lot.
Yeah, but I'm not interested in that 5% of 44 million number. I'm interested in the fact that it's just 5% of people. I don't know. I feel like a part of this conversation always ends up being from one side, oh, these people are just not responsible and a lot of them are using drugs. It's no, they're not. They're just not.
I don't know that's true.
I don't think that's true at all.
Define a drug, right? I mean, alcohol.
Right. Yeah.
Are you testing for alcohol with these, or what's?
Yeah.
I don't think they are, but
I don't think you can after 12 hours. At that point, all the alcohol's gone.
Right. But what I'm saying is that's just as disastrous, and
oh yeah, absolutely.
I also
contribute
feel
to a shitty living environment for any kid.
Right. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say you could say that let's say you got one alcoholic dad who, hey, you passed the piss test, here are your benefits, and then you got one struggling working dad who, oh, weed came up on your piss test, so there go your benefits. You know what I mean? Doesn't seem like the playing field is very.
I also feel and it's not even a minority of people. It's only a slight few people, but there's still a slight few people where their argument is well, if you're poor, then just choose not to be poor. You should work harder. It's can you stop with that? That is not that cut and dry. That is so ridiculous. That kind of crap just.
Hey, you got bootstraps? Pull yourself up by him.
Oh, jeez.
Get him up there. Yeah, I don't know. I think at face value, you go, should we drug test people who receive welfare? You're at face value, okay, I can see what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I understand where they're coming from. Sure.
It just seems like it's not worth the time or the
I think
effort.
so.
Probably because most of these people aren't using, at the very least, hard drugs and ruining their lives, right? Most of these people are benefiting and buying food with these stamps.
Right.
So and
Right, if we want-
and it's just costly, dude. It's
and
so
if we wanna-
expensive.
If we want to have a conversation where it's like, you know what, people that use this money should only be buying like basic necessities like milk and bread. Okay, that's fine. If we want to have a conversation about how they should be buying lobster, I'm about it. Let's figure that out.
Well, no,
Okay,
but
I don't have
again,
any problem with that. But
that doesn't happen though. Like you're limited to certain things you can buy.
I think the complaint there and what happens is because I've seen this personally myself, and that is they'll use a food stamp in order to purchase, right, your milk, your breads, whatever the case may be, and then they'll use their personal money to buy the cigarettes and the lobster as well.
Sure.
And that's
sure.
more the complaint of fiscal responsibility as opposed to
right,
what you
shouldn't be
can
buying-
and right, what you
But
should
again-
or shouldn't be, you know what I mean?
But again, these
Yeah.
people did qualify for food stamps, which means that they
Right.
do make, what is it, 120%
Not a lot of money,
under
right.
the federal poverty line. Like,
Well, and a lot of
sure,
people
these
would
people are
argue-
buying lobster, but they're clearly blowing a lot of the money that they don't really have to spend anyways.
I think a lot of it was.
But I get what you're
like
saying there.
Your cash money. You know, for example, an argument has been made, and I don't know how valid it is, but let's say you've got a drug dealer and has 3 or 4 kids with a woman. Now that woman doesn't have to work, and he supplies her cash for whatever it is that she needs, but then she also applies for whatever benefits because she doesn't work, and therefore she is below said poverty line. Now, I don't know. Again, I don't know how often that happens, but
Right.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying there, but I would make the argument that 70 to 80% of people that receive SNAP, and that's probably a conservative estimate, aren't abusing the system and
Right.
are people who actually benefit from it. But
I agree with you.
I get what you're saying. And there's probably, I mean, again, 44 million, that's a lot of people. I didn't realize that there were that many people that actively receive benefits from SNAP. I didn't realize that.
The last thing I want to show you guys, I saw this.
So I don't know.
I'm gonna post. Actually, I can just share my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna share my screen really quick. This is interesting. Come on, what the heck, Google? Look at this. I saw this earlier today, and look, I'm not saying that.
Didn't you post that?
Huh?
Didn't you post that? Or did I see that on Reddit? I may have just seen
You might have just seen it on Reddit.
if you remember
look,
that Chad
time
lives
to
on the
end.
internet.
I want everyone to know. I want everyone to know that
I
both
perused.
of these tweets aren't wrong. So, like, I don't know that for sure. But when Fox
Wait,
News
I can't
says
see it that well.
foods, oh, you can't. Oh, tits. Well, let me
Oh,
post it in the
fine.
Hangouts really quick for you. When Fox News says, or an entity of any sort says,
Joe's still sharing his screen.
food stamp fraud is at an all-time high, like, if that's right, then that's right. Like, it might be at an all-time high, but then the numbers and the context matters there. If the all-time high is 0.09% and that's right, it doesn't seem like it's worth starving.
It's interesting that they would follow it up with, "Is it time to end the program?"
That's so disingenuous that it
But again-
makes me upset. Like,
Sure,
But
But-
they're a news
but wait,
organization
doesn't-
trying to get people to click on it. Obviously, the program's not going to end.
oh yeah, that
Obviously, it
context
doesn't
matters too.
justify the end of it.
Right.
But you
Wait,
phrase it
shouldn't
that
we-
way.
Wait, is this talking about about what we were just talking about? Snap?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That can't be accurate then. Somebody is significantly wrong, right? Cyril Chad, didn't you just say 44 million people?
Well, there's no
What did I miss
numbers
here?
of people on that tweet, so I don't know.
There's only 330 million people in our country.
Okay, I'm confused as to what you're referring to. I don't.
How is it
There's no millions of people.
9% if 44 million people qualify for this benefit?
No. He's saying
What are
he's
you?
saying
what
he's
am I
saying the
missing?
0.08% that are fraud. You're going to starve the
Oh,
rest of the people that are
Fraud.
on,
Gotcha.
on the program.
For
Oh,
some
I see
reason,
what
when I
Bill
first
was
read
saying.
it, I thought you
No,
were
I got
saying
you.
that. Yeah,
It was only 0.09% of people on food stamps. No, I got
correct.
you. No,
I
that's
was like,
not-
wait
right,
a minute. What?
Right.
Did I miss the fact that we were at like 400 billion people or something?
and by no means is Fox News some sort of like only news station they're all crap in one way or the other. It's just this kind of stuff makes every single channel is disingenuous in one way or the other. There's always biases. It's just this kind of stuff. It just happens to be Fox News, but they all do it. But this kind of stuff is just Chad, you're right. Why did they end it with, is it time to end the program? Like, what in the world?
Well, because they're trying to get people to click on it, right?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
That's exactly what it is.
I bet you if I found that article, there might be more context in that article, but I just hate that tweet. So,
can I just throw some numbers out there though? If I may?
Sure. Oh, I'm all about it.
Because Caleb, how much would you say you spend a week on groceries for your family?
In total,
like 100, 150 maybe?
More in the neighborhood of 160 to 170.
So apparently the average person who gets SNAP gets 100. This is what the average person receives, is $125
Wow.
per month.
Oh, never mind.
Worth of food stamps.
I thought if he was going to say per week, I was going to be like, geez, that's a lot.
No, that's
I'm about to apply.
So that's... Are you? Because like, what would that? How big
it was per week is what he's saying.
Right.
If it's per week, that takes care of my grocery bill, dude. Almost.
Yeah.
No, so clearly,
I'll be
people.
getting that lobster afterwards.
I probably spend $125 a month on groceries, but I am myself.
A month?
And
Zero. You eat like one meal a day.
I literally do.
And half
And
of that
also-
is coffee.
And also at the bank, dude. Oh my God, what you said is unfortunately absolutely correct.
I know it
And also at work,
You
and
get
also
scurvy,
at work,
dude. Eat an apple.
I avoid scurvy by eating out on the weekends and changing up on the weekends. But
There you go.
but I also at work a lot. We entertain clients and they bring in food for us all the time. So I just
there you go.
Yeah, I don't eat a lot at home. Like I brought home last Tuesday. I brought home from work like 6 extra sandwiches that Panera gave us because they opened up accounts with us and they just gave us lunch to say thanks. So I ate sandwiches for dinner for like 3 days in a row. Both free.
Both free. There you go.
So,
Wow. But yeah, so I mean that's a lot less than I anticipated. That's the average person. That's how it averages out between the 44 million.
Well, and I think also a lot of people, fortunately, we do have some like, soup kitchens and church groups that do give, food away.
Right.
Sure.
Well,
Right.
which is helpful. But
like what I'm saying is
difficult.
You're getting 125 a month. Like what kind of capacity A do you have for fraud there? Committing
fraud.
And B, yeah, exactly. Like, how much could you really get out of $120 in stamps? Maybe you could get $60 out of that if you found some cashier that's willing to be a little shady. Like, that's not even worth the effort or the trouble you're going to get into.
Yeah.
Right? And to a greater extent, $125 a month, like, clearly this is just like supplemental to what people are already buying for themselves. This isn't paying for somebody's entire grocery bill every week. Not even close. Maybe a quarter. Maybe half if you're really frugal.
Does SNAP actually stand for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Plan?
Yes.
Program.
Apologies.
Yep, it does.
So I don't know.
Well,
All right.
when it comes to supplemental, context matters. It is, in fact, supplemental.
It is indeed. It is not their primary source of food.
There you go.
As far as I can tell, I mean, if you can spend only 125 a month, I mean, again, Sarah, you could probably do it. What do you? Is that like $2 boxes of pasta, 2 jars of sauce? And
so half of that $125 is actual food. The other half is beer.
Okay, right. That seems reasonable. Paps.
Although I wouldn't call.
Long story short,
Disgusting.
we are all against drug testing people for SNAP.
Well, I just don't think it's worth
yes.
the time.
I don't think it's worth the time. I think
like
Chad said, I understand where they're coming from. They're trying to when we talk about trying to get rid of abuse and waste and fraud. Yeah, sure, we can have that conversation. Of course, we should have that conversation.
But that's always going to happen. Right? I mean,
right. Well, that's
bureaucracy.
We can always do better, though. I mean, so I'm willing to have that conversation of how can we do better. But I just think that this feels like a little bit of just too much effort, too much time for something that, as far as the numbers that we're seeing, just isn't there. So,
you know what it's like? It's one of those things that sounds like it should be obvious, but then when you really look at it, you're like, okay, it doesn't really make sense, does it? Because I'll never forget when we were arguing. It was a conversation that was taking place in this country maybe 4 4 or 5 years ago about waterboarding, whether or not we should waterboard terrorists.
Yeah.
And people were like, "What? Why would you protect terrorists? Why would you not want them to suffer through? They're terrorists, fuck them." But it's like, yeah, okay, well, waterboarding is pretty terrible, and what you're trying to do is get good intelligence. And if waterboarding is forcing people to give you bad intelligence, then that's not even worth the time. It's not worth it, dude.
I was about to,
right? Like face value. Why shouldn't we waterboard terrorists? It's like, no. What we're trying to let's get down to what we're actually trying to get out of this, and it doesn't make sense when you really look at it.
That's exactly it. And you guys know I've been in the intelligence community. That's exactly it. A lot of times, what ends up happening is these guys will just say anything just to get out and stop it, and that ends up being bad intel. That's absolutely correct. And then that's a slippery slope, Chad, because if they're giving you bad intel about other guys that they're ratting out, what if those guys aren't even terrorists? Now you're going to waterboard them too and see what they say?
Right,
like
exactly.
It gets bad.
You're just chasing phantoms around the world because waterboarding really sucks. And
well, I think there's another crux to that too.
It's go ahead, Caleb.
Which is, and this is what I've seen, and I think this is what happened with ISIS essentially with Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, right? I mean, you put these people in these shitty situations for so long, they're just like, you know what, fuck it. Yeah, you guys do suck. I'm going to fight against you.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to kill the terrorists. That's illegal.
And I don't think you'd find me, I don't think you'd find me saying, if it's a known person who has killed another person, let's treat them with kid gloves. No, then we should not treat them with kid gloves. Do whatever you want. But the problem is
do whatever you want.
Maybe not do whatever you want. But the problem is, like, how do you ever know for sure, right? Like, obviously, sometimes we can definitely know for sure, but a lot of the times we don't. And if you don't know for sure, and you're waterboarding someone or doing all these things to them, like, it can be a slippery slope, like I said before. So
let's get away from waterboarding as well. Let's talk about internment camps and things like that. Like, if nobody's,
what do you?
Cyril knows this, right? Military-age males, they're a threat. Every single one. Like, what? This is a 12-year-old kid,
right, ma'ams?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not aware of these at all.
Military-age male.
Oh yeah.
So what?
So what would danger?
Right. So what would? How does that?
You're a potential security threat, so we're going to put you in an internment camp for 6 months until we verify who you are. Which, by the way, by the time you're in that internment camp as a 13-year-old kid or whatever the case may be, you're spending time with actual terrorists, and they're spending their whole time saying, "Look at how shitty they treat us."
How do we speed up the radicalization of the youth?
Right.
How do we speed this up? That's
as far as
that's crazy.
ISIS is concerned, right? I believe it was in 2006. There was an internment camp south of Baghdad where all of these guys were, like, all the bigwigs of ISIS or that used to be part of ISIS. That's where they all met.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying.
In an internment camp, like, you grew that shit in your own backyard.
Well, you're stoking anti-sentiment.
This always goes back to, for me, if there is a direct threat on our country, I got it. Let's go eliminate that threat. But if there's no direct threat to our country, what do you want me to say? Like, I don't think we should be there. I don't think we should be there. And it's a very complicated discussion that we could have on that, because it's not that cut and dry. That's just where I fall on it.
Well, one could argue that instability in other places of the world leads to instability.
There are nuances that we can talk,
right? Of course,
and debate. But I agree. That's where I end up falling after having that discussion.
We have a lot of problems in our own country that need sorting out before we want to.
Yes, that's another part of that.
Kick down the door on the rest of the world.
That's another part of that conversation. But relating to what we just talked about, it's like, are we going to go and try to, like, fix other people's problems when it's not a direct threat on us? And if we do try to do that, are we going to keep doing the same things we used to, like declaring MAMs, potential hostiles and throwing them in camps, and then solidifying the maybe causing them to think terroristic things and join bad organizations because look at the way they're treating, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just feels like a negative feedback loop there of just creating the problem, creating itself because you're there.
Right.
Christ.
The difficult part there, Cyril, is convincing somebody what is and is not a threat, right? Because you and I might say imminent threat is the destruction of human life on our soil, whereas other people might say Russia becoming a world superpower is an imminent threat.
Or communism
or China,
spreading.
Right.
That's fine.
China
that person would have to tell me why. And I would
all
listen
I'm
to
saying
them
is that's what you're going to run into. People
and that's
are gonna
fine.
say
I just want that person to tell me why. And I'm not saying that I would agree or disagree with them. I just want to hear their explanation, because you can't just sit there and be like, China being a world superpower is a threat to America, and then just leave it at that. Like, no, you got to tell me why. Like,
because they have a financial stake in America now. They could murder us in a heartbeat. We could get into a trade dispute with China.
Okay. So how does that really connect to trying to prevent them from becoming a superpower? Like, or the fact that
we go tit for tat with China, the world economy collapses, and then what happens? We're all screwed.
Unfortunately, the things you're saying are kind of playing out right now, and I
start
really
buying canned
hope
food.
they don't go bad.
I'm saying that for a reason, Cyril.
Yeah, no, I know.
Buy a lot of canned food. Buy some guns.
I know.
Stack up on ammunition.
No,
Yeah.
why would you buy canned food? First of all, learn how to hunt.
Hold on, dude.
That too.
What is the world worth if I don't have some Chef Boyardee ravioli
Oh, it gets tough
in the post-apocalyptic world?
Oh,
it's not worth my time, dude.
Oh, it gets
What are you
not
gonna do?
worth
Just
my
kill
time.
yourself?
Well, after I run out of raviolis, that's something I'm gonna have to think about seriously.
All right, boys, let's end it on this, because you're
We have fully derailed.
Oh, jeez. Come on now. All right, let's end it on this. Great
Not sponsored. We're not sponsored by Chef Boyardee.
Remember, before you leave, to buy Chef Boyardee.